Well, Colts Nation, we are officially 1 week away from having football back. The Colts will be playing at 1 o'clock this time next week at home against Jacksonville. And leading up to the game, we want to kind of hit on where we sit as a team. Okay, so of course, we're here. We're going to start with the people that are starting the season injured or on the IR, the guys that are questionable, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so starting on the IR, offensive lineman, we have Jake Witt out with the hip, and that injury happened in training camp. Danny Pinter, he's out with the broken ankle this year. Ashton Doolin tore his ACL, and he'll be out for the season. Bernard Avery tore his meniscus, and he's on the IR. Titus Leo is also out for the defensive line, and that injury is undisclosed at this time. For tight ends, we have Ricky Seals-Jones with a foot injury, and that one, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent, but I've heard enough NFL players talk over time about guys that know they're not going to make the team, exaggerating injuries. I'm just going to assume that's what that is so that he can get paid for a couple weeks. And then Jelani Woods, who's out with a hamstring. And there's been no info up to this point about what grade of a hamstring injury it is for Jelani Woods. So there's no telling what the timeline is for him coming back at this point. The research that I did, what I saw was that it could be anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. And in even more severe cases, it could extend over that 3 months. So at the point that we're at right now, Jelani Woods is at least going to miss the first 4 games. So I'm assuming this is at least a grade 2 tear. So he's already going to be missing September. There's a good chance that he ends up missing all of October. And worst case scenario, unless it's again a severe tear and like there's no chance of him coming back this season, my assumption at this point is that he'll be back for the last 6 to 8 games, 8 games max. I wouldn't count on that. He's going to need a couple weeks to practice after missing so much time before he comes back, right? He'll come back in a limited fashion and they'll ease him in after the injury. So, we're looking at the most, Jelani Woods is probably going to be playing 6 games this year. So we were all hoping for Jelani Woods' breakout season. Unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. But fortunately, there's another tight end that could step up, and we'll talk about all the starters and all the guys toward the end here. But to continue with the injuries, last couple guys we have here is linebacker JoJo Doman, who was put on the IR. Now he has a concussion, right? The injury that took him out was a concussion. They put him on the IR. I'm assuming that's just for roster moves. Now he'll have to again miss the first few weeks of the season, but when he does come back, like they at least have flexibility for the first few weeks of the season, and they can let him come back in the time frame that it's going to take him to come back from that. They don't have to hurry him back into action at all. So I think again that was more of a roster move. I'm hoping, there hasn't been a whole lot of information on that. I'm hoping that, this is not a serious issue. There have been NFL players that got concussions and missed a lot of time. Most recently, Tua last year, and obviously he had 3 concussions in one season, so that's a little bit different of a situation. But there are other instances where guys get a concussion, miss quite a bit of time. A month and a half, 2 months. There's an example I remember. It wasn't all that long ago. I just can't remember the specific player. I believe it was an Eagles player that had to miss a little bit of time for concussion, but I'm hoping that he's all right. You know what I mean? I had to stop playing football when I was a freshman because it didn't have to stop, but I did stop playing because of concussions and the effect that they had on me. So I'm hoping he's all right, hoping he comes back all right. And then the last guy on the IR is Daniel Scott. He was drafted this year by the Colts late in the draft. He tore his ACL in June. Okay, so that is all the guys on the IR. That's a lot of guys. But luckily here, as we look through it, there aren't really a whole lot of starters, right? Ashton Doolin is a pretty major player for the role that he plays, especially on special teams. We were really optimistic about Bernard Avery and Titus Leo, and of course, Jelani Woods being a guy we were all hoping could break out. So a couple guys there that we're definitely going to miss. But even with the guys that are hurt, like when you look at the lineup, I think we can at least get by without these guys if we have to. Luckily the Colts are really deep at tight end. So, even though Jelani Woods not being around hurts, it's not the worst thing in the world for this roster. Okay, but then as we go on here with injuries, Jonathan Taylor begins the year on the PUP list. He's going to miss the first 4 games of the season. Who knows how that situation is going to end up. And then the guys going into week one that are questionable going into week one are Zach Moss and Juju Brents. And Zach Moss, there's no telling at this point. We're going to have to pay attention to this as the week goes on. But from the sounds of it, there's a chance that he's at least, a limited participant in practice. But again, we'll see how that goes this week. And then Juju Brents, we'll have to see how that goes. And I'll have to wait to see how the practice reports look to see what his availability is actually going to end up being. Because the latest injury report that I could find was on CBS Sports, and it was most recent date that it was updated was August 31st. So it had Shaq Leonard and EJ Speed as questionable for the game, but they were both full participants in the last practice. So I assume they're going to be good to go. So again, we'll have to wait to see how the practice reports look this upcoming week, and I will update you guys on the different practices this week and any kind of news that comes out that you guys need to know about. So make sure you subscribe with notifications on just in case anything crazy happens this week. All right, but then we start looking ahead to the full season, right? You start looking at the season. FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM all have the Colts win projections set at 6.5 wins. Now, FanDuel also has an option to bet if teams are going to win 10 plus games, and the Colts are at plus 440 odds to be able to get to 10 wins. So basically, that's fairly long odds for being a good bet. Obviously that's difficult to see happening this year, but that's still fairly generous odds given that the win projection is set at 6.5. So it seems here that Vegas and all the different sports books can't really tell if they think the Colts are going to be really good or if the Colts are going to be a pretty bad team. And I think that's a lot hinging on the fact that Anthony Richardson could either be a superstar and more than anybody expected, or he could be what we expected. And, rookie year is going to be really up and down and inconsistent. So I think that's what the sports books are showing right now is kind of what the narrative is around the Colts at this point. Right, so you look at the division, AFC South as a whole. Obviously, Jacksonville's projected to win the division with minus 155 odds, and the Titans are second in the division with plus 310 odds, and then the Colts are third in the division with plus 550 odds. Then, of course, you have Houston. Who really cares about Houston? Their odds are plus 1,000. Okay, so my record prediction, if you didn't see my video about the Colts record prediction a few weeks ago, if you're a little newer to the channel, my record prediction this season for the Colts is at 7-10. And I'm trying to stay modest because I know I'm biased, right? Like I've done Colts records in the past, and I always have them winning like at least 12 games, even when I know that that's probably pretty unrealistic. So I'm trying to stay modest, trying to keep my bias out of it. I think 7-10 is a good mark. And 7-10, right? If they win 7, and I don't live in a state where I can place bets like that online or anything, but if I did, I would bet on the Colts to win more than 6.5 games. And if 7-10 hits, then I'd be winning my bet. Right. So I'd be fine with that. I think that'd be a good season for Anthony Richardson's first season. The first season in it's almost not even a rebuild. I don't like when people say it's a rebuild because it's not like we let go of that many people. We've just needed a new quarterback, right? And we're starting over with a new quarterback. So it's kind of a rebuild. I guess a reshaping of the franchise that's happening. And I think if we can win 7 games, under these circumstances, that'll be a really good season for us. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if this team ended up finding a way to win 8 or 9 games, right? Because defense matters, man, and turnovers matter. And at the end of the day, the Colts win and loss record is going to come down to turnovers. We talk about that so often here on this channel about how turnovers basically decide football games, right? You can look at examples like the Chargers-Jaguars game in the playoff last year, where the Chargers, I think, ended up getting 5 turnovers and they lost that game, right? It happens sometimes. But for the most part, the team that wins the turnover battle is going to win the game. So if Anthony Richardson cannot turn the ball over, which he only turned the ball over once in the preseason, granted, it was only, 5 quarters of football, but only 1 turnover. Right, if he can keep the turnovers down and the defense can go back to being, opportunistic, right? Shaq Leonard being in the lineup definitely helps that. Kenny Moore being Kenny Moore again definitely will help that. So if this defense can create turnovers, Anthony Richardson can keep the turnovers down, the Colts could easily end up as an 8 or 9 win team and be right on the cusp of making it into AFC playoffs. I don't know if anybody makes it into AFC playoffs if they don't get to 11 wins because the AFC is so strong and there's so many really good quarterbacks. So it's going to be difficult for this Colts team to make it into the playoffs this season, but they have the players to be able to go on enough of a run to prove everybody wrong, right? Everybody thinks that this is a team that's going to win 4 games. And this is an opportunity for all these guys to come out after a 4-win season and show everybody that what they put on tape last year isn't what they are. Okay, and I'd love to know what you think the Colts record is going to be. You let me know down in the comment section and be as biased or unbiased as you want to. You better believe if we win against Jacksonville in week 1, overreaction Monday is going to be crazy. Okay, so go off with whatever you want. Be excited about the football season. All right, but now we're going to get into the list of the starters, okay? At quarterback, it's Anthony Richardson. At running back, that could be Zach Moss. Even if Zach Moss comes back this week, probably a good chance Deion Jackson starting week 1. At receiver, it's Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, and Josh Downs. Kylan Granson is officially tight end 1 with Mo Alley Cox behind him, but then Drew Ogletree. And Drew Ogletree is the tight end that I wanted to talk more about because this is a guy that over the course of training camp, there have been small hints from teammates about Drew Ogletree, right? And unless you're really paying attention to what each player is saying or what the coaches are saying, you might not pick up on it because it's just while they're in sentences and then they'll just mention Ogletree's name in something. It's just, I have a feeling Drew Ogletree, as long as he's able to stay healthy this season, there's a chance he could end up being the superstar of the tight end room for this team. So that's the guy that going into the season, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do, especially with Jelani Woods not being there. We know what Kylan Granson's role is going to be. It's kind of a slot tight end kind of guy. Drew Ogletree can be an absolute star. I think he can be to us what Travis Kelce is to the Chiefs. I really think with all the hype that's been behind him and everything I've heard about him from last year and then this year in training camp, I think he can be a superstar in the NFL. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if that can happen. Okay, but then you go to the offensive line here. We have Bernard Raymond, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Braden Smith. Now, Will Fries is somebody that's also questionable, and I'm going to have to wait to see what his availability really is in practice to know if we're going to have him for the game. Okay, and the backups there are Wesley French, who would probably slot in, but they also have Josh Sills and Blake Freeland on the roster as more offensive line depth pieces. Okay, but now for the defense, we have Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, and Samson Ebukam. And the interesting thing here going into the season, we know they want to use the rotation of guys. It's going to be how do they use the rotation? How much do we see each guy week by week? I'm going to try to pay attention to the snap count and try to get the snap count for each guy so that I can kind of keep a good track of it for myself and for you guys so that we can have a good idea of what we're seeing every Sunday. But even with Samson Ebukam starting, I feel like we're going to see a lot of Dayo Odeyingbo this year, especially from what we saw in the preseason. He was disrupting things all day in the preseason, the run game and the pass game. So I think he's going to be really valuable to this defense and a really valuable contributor to the rotation this year for the pass rush. Okay, and then you go over to linebacker. We have EJ Speed, Shaq Leonard, Zaire Franklin starting. And at cornerback, it's Kenny Moore, Darrell Baker Jr., and Dallas Flowers. Now, for the corners, if they're in nickel, Kenny's going to play the nickel. But if they're in a set where they're only playing 2 corners on the field, Kenny's going to be the 1. Darrell Baker Jr. is going to be the 2. So we're finally at a place in Colts history where Kenny Moore has a chance to really be the number 1 corner in different times. a lot of times he's still going to be that slot guy because that's just the way the NFL is nowadays. That when you're matching 11 personnel, you usually match it with nickel defense unless you're trying to scheme something in a different way to throw off the offense. So Kenny Moore usually going to be a slot guy, but will be the primary guy from time to time in this defense this season. Okay, and to finish off the defense, Julian Blackmon is slated to start the season as strong safety, Ronnie Thomas at free safety, and obviously Nick Cross is going to be a rotation piece and probably come on the field a decent bit to give Julian Blackmon some rest. I wouldn't be surprised if they put Nick Cross in both safety positions at different times throughout all the games. Like he can play both positions. So he can give both guys a rest, can get both guys off the field, and we can keep fresh legs going into the fourth quarter. It's kind of the idea with the safeties, it's the idea with the pass rush. So I think it's a good idea, and I think it can work with as deep as we're starting to get on the defensive side of the ball. Like people underestimate the depth that this team has. The thing is, you unlocking the potential. We've been waiting for the potential to be unlocked, and at some point either it is or it isn't, right? And we're starting to get to a point where some of these guys, they just are what they are. So going into the season, we're hoping for breakout seasons from a lot of guys, hoping some guys can step up into the role that they're supposed to and be able to produce in that role. We don't need everybody to be superstars. You just need all 11 guys on both sides of the ball to be able to play their role and to do their job and to execute it play after play, game after game. So a little bit of consistency goes a long way, but I think this Colts team has a lot of potential. Okay, and before we get out of here, just go over to specialists real quick. For kicker, we have Matt Gay. For punter, Rigoberto Sanchez, who will also be on kickoff duty. Josh Downs is starting at punt returner. And Dallas Flowers is starting kick returner, with Luke Rhodes being the long snapper. Okay, so with that said, if there's anything that you guys want to know more about the team before the season starts, let me know down in the comment section, and I'll get you the best information I can before the game next Sunday. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe with notifications on so you get notified when those videos come out. And until next time, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.